Hello! Welcome to another video, and one that I am really excited to be making. As you can tell from the title and the thumbnail and the fact that I've probably given sneak peeks at this point that this is happening, I've decided I'm making a readathon. I don't know who it was that suggested it, and I'm sorry for not remembering, but when I was talking about polar fantasies and how much I love polar fantasies and reading polar fantasies in the winter, etc., someone suggested that I just make a polar fantasy readathon to do. So, I have, and I'm really excited about it. So, I'm here to introduce you to the Polar-thon. Not to be confused with a snow skating event that happens in Canada, apparently. When I googled Polar-thon, that's a thing. It's like a marathon on snowshoes or something like that. Not to be confused with that. This one's all about reading. But I've made a path, I've made a graphic, I've got proper into it, come up with the reading prompts. I'm going to be doing the Polar-thon. It's going to run from the 4th of February to the 10th of February, so 1 week, so 4th and 10th included, 1 week of polar fantasy fun. Right, so as I say, I've made a graphic, so I'm just going to put the graphic up here and you can view it. It's probably going to stay here for the rest of the video. I've got it on my iPad here, but you can see it here. Yay! The idea of this is essentially to climb the polar mountain. You start at the bottom, you've got to get to the peak. There are 5 steps that you have to take to get to the top one, your peak being a polar fantasy novel. So that one's more specific than they are lower down the mountain. So yeah, I'm gonna just take you through what all of the prompts for this are and try my absolute hardest not to get way too excited about this. So there are 3 starting points at the bottom. You can pick any of your 3 starting points, but let's go from right to left. So on the right at the bottom, we've got a cozy read. This is quite self-explanatory. I'm leaving it quite vague, up to your interpretation, so that I'm not putting too much force on read tons of polar fantasy, because I think that would be quite difficult for people to find books for if you're not as experienced in the genre and don't really know what you're looking for. So a cozy read to get you started. Something warm and fuzzy, something that makes you feel cozy, or something that you're reading whilst wrapped up in a blanket. You interpret that how you fancy. Let's go along to the side. We've got a journey ahead. Again, quite vague. This is just a book that either contains a journey that the characters have to go on, or is going to be a journey for you for any reason, or potentially even the first of a series, like you know you've got a journey ahead of you because it's gonna take you some time to get through all of those. So again, quite vague to ease you in with your first step, just the journey ahead. And then across one more, the last starting step is a daunting read. So this was inspired by like the daunting mountain ahead sort of thing. So either a book that you're a bit nervous to pick up, a book that's out of your comfort zone a little bit, something that's maybe been on your TBR for a while that you just haven't gravitated towards, something like that. So a bit like, ugh, I hope that makes sense. But again, quite vague, open to interpretation, just to ease you in with the bottom steps there. Right, so from the bottom steps you can either go directly up or you can go diagonal. That's up to you, but wherever the footsteps take you is where you should go. So let's go up from cozy read. We then have a blue cover. Very self-explanatory. A book with a blue cover, or blue featured on the cover somewhere. Very self-explanatory. Across from that, we've got Northern Mythology / Folklore. I'm leaving this quite broad. I'm going to accept anywhere in the Northern Hemisphere. So not necessarily like Norse mythology. That's a great book if you want a book recommendation for that prompt though, but any mythology based from somewhere in the Northern Hemisphere. Or folklore from the Northern Hemisphere, same sort of thing. Mythology or folklore, folktale sort of thing. So for me, I'd probably go for like a Russian folklore inspired thing, because I'm into that. And then across from that, we have Cold Word in the title. Again, there's plenty you can do for that. Anything that's got either the word cold, ice, snow, frost, winter, anything like that in the title. If it's got a cold associated word, it counts. So that doesn't necessarily have to be a polar book, it could just be any book that happens to have a cold word in the title. Okay, so let's go back over to the other side and up one from blue cover, which is snowy setting. So a book that's set somewhere snowy. I feel again that's probably quite self-explanatory. If there is snow in the setting, it counts. Across from that we have silver cover, so again similar to blue cover, this is something with a silver cover. Silver detailing, silver something. I feel like there's probably a lot of books that fit this, because when you take dust jackets off hardbacks, a lot of the spines tend to be silver, so that counts. And then across from that we've got set in winter. Now this is different to being set in the snow, because it doesn't have to be snowing, just needs to be winter. So likewise with the snow, it doesn't have to be winter, but it's snowing. Do you know what I mean? Like, just something set in the winter season. Back across and up from snowy setting we have an Arctic adventure. This is getting more specific now. An Arctic adventure, an adventure that takes place in the Arctic. I will accept fantasy Arctic, doesn't have to be real Arctic, but set in a land that would be like the Arctic. Do you get me? I hope you get me. Across from that we have icy magic. This one, again, quite broad because it doesn't necessarily have to be a polar fantasy, but something that features some sort of icy magic. So it's either someone who has an icy power, or the ice itself has power, or anything like that. So I'm thinking like Snow Queen sort of stuff, or enchanted ice creatures. If you want an ice dragon, I know a few books with them. And across from that we have a snowy cover. So it doesn't necessarily have to be set in the snow, but something on the cover needs to indicate snow or ice or frost, not being a word, being an image. So it could be a polar bear, I'll take that. A penguin, I'll take that. A snowman, snow, a snowflake, a bit of frost, anything like that, I'll take it. That will count for a snowy cover. And that takes us to the peak of the mountain that is a polar fantasy. A fantasy that is polar. Quite self-explanatory. I have a whole video on polar fantasy recommendations, but essentially it is a fantasy novel with some sort of polar aspect, snowy aspect, winter, frosty aspect, but a fantasy novel merged together. There you go. It's that simple. So that's happening from the 4th of February to the 10th of February, a week to do 5 books if you want to climb the entire mountain. You could be an absolute lunatic and try and explore the entire mountain if you fancied, but I don't know who would want to do that in a week. I feel like I'm doing this on quite short notice, but I want to do it before winter ends, and we're kind of in winter now. Apparently it's supposed to snow here in February, so perfect timing if it does. But yeah, that's that. I'm quite excited about it. If you want book recommendations for any of these, chat to me, leave any recommendations yourself down below if you have any for them. I'll probably be doing social bits for this on my Twitter and my Instagram. I'm not going to make separate accounts for it. So if you're not following me on either of those and you want to keep up to date and in the loop with it, my social links are always down below, but my Instagram is JD Ray Reads and my Twitter is just JD Ray. So you can follow me there and keep in the loop there if you fancy it. I think I've covered everything that I needed to cover. I'm excited about this. If you have any questions at all, anything that I haven't covered, if you want to join in and you're not sure about anything, please just ask. But I really hope that someone will join in at least. If not, I'll still do it by myself. But I'm excited by the prospect of this, and I really hope that you are as well. I would love to go on this expedition with you all. It would be delightful. So yeah, that's that. If you are excited, if you've enjoyed this little announcement, then give us a thumbs up. Chat to me down below, drop your recommendations, any questions that you may have. Mark it in your calendars, the 4th of February through to the 10th of February, 7 days to read 5 books. You can do it. I believe in you. I believe in me. Yes, it is achievable. Okay, I'm gonna stop rambling now, but I hope you have enjoyed, I hope you're excited, and I will see you next time. Bye!